Am I the a-hole for buying a house despite my son's father's objections? Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my $70 Nikes to my BF homeless friend? Am I the a-hole for disagreeing with my child's stepfather and wanting my child to live with me? Am I the a-hole for buying a house despite my son's father's objections? So, I have a kid with a man. Currently, I live in NYC and pay $2,000 for rent for my apartment. I have repeatedly asked my son's father for financial help only to mostly be denied. For the entire year, he has only given me a total of $1,500. I am literally suffering and not able to pay for medical equipment I need since I need to prioritize rent, food, and other things. All without his help for his son. Years ago, I expressed a desire to move out of NYC due to the very high cost of living. I was looking at Philadelphia due to family being there but settled on Northampton County, Pennsylvania, based on its proximity to NYC. Earlier this year, I told him I was going to buy as soon as I could. In January, he was okay with me going to PA. In April, when I started working on my credit to purchase, he was against it. When I told him I was looking to purchase, he complained. I told him I had an offer on a house and I told him the day I closed. He said I never confirmed with him that I was purchasing. He is concerned about losing access to his son. Currently, he gets his son on the weekends. I have been visiting PA every weekend since I've purchased the house and have always had his son to him during the approximate time he would previously have him. He said I should have discussed this with him where to buy my house. My thought process is he cannot tell me where to move. I can't afford any place within a 50-mile radius of NYC. I did end up closing on a house, and my mortgage is $600 cheaper than my rent. Plus, the cost of services for my son is much cheaper. The summer camp at the YMCA in NYC is $400 a week. Near my house, it is $250 a week. After school is $25 a month in PA compared to $50 a week from my son's current school or $125 from a nearby childcare center. Anyways, he's upset for buying a house despite his objections. I did take his concerns into consideration, which is why I choose to look in PA rather than someplace I'd rather much live with a warmer climate. Am I the a-hole for not involving my son's father more in the process of purchasing a home that is so far away from his house? Edit. I did file for child support and was supposed to go to court for that 2 weeks after the family courts shut down due to the pandemic. I've been asking him for money in the meantime, hence the $1,500 he has sent. But since I started working again, he hasn't given anything. Also, as of right now, we are in court for custody but he has blocked me from moving my son to the new house. So due to his actions, I am actually forced to pay both my rent and my mortgage, which again, I asked for help and he said that he has zero to give.
Agreed. Morally and ethically, you are NTA. You must get a good family attorney. Now, try to do everything with your ex via text so you have a written record of what happens. If anything is via phone, get a notebook and log the date, time and what exactly was discussed immediately after the call. Write down the date times that you drop off your son. Keep track of all money that he pays you, document that in the book as well. If there's anything on FB or other social media, screenshot it and save it. You're now in legal proceedings. As much of a pain this is, you have to document in writing every single interaction with your ex. Good luck, I hope everything goes well for you and your son. Depending on the custody agreement, OP could get in serious legal trouble. While I was going through my divorce, I was not even allowed to leave the state for vacation without written permission from the kid's father. When my son asked to move to another state to help with his acting career, we had to go through 2 years of court battles and mediation in order to get the court to allow us to move. If I had moved or taken vacation in that time, I would have been charged with federal kidnapping. OP, you need to contact a lawyer ASAP to make sure that your ex cannot press charges against you for kidnapping if you move to PA. You don't need to discuss anything with him. This is absolutely not true. If Hess on the birth certificate and they've maintained a semi-informal custody arrangement, which him having the child every weekend says yes, then he absolutely has a say in where the kid's going to live, even without the child support involvement. You don't need to tell him why, and his inputs are not needed. They may not be needed, but he absolutely has every right to know where they are moving, when, why, and everything in between. Just because this dude is a deadbeat ass doesn't mean she automatically gets 100% custody right out of the gate. In a perfect world, she would be able to move away and have him pay child support without any issues. But if he can prove to the courts that the move is going to decrease access to the minor child, then the judge can definitely block her from moving.
Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my $70 Nikes to my BF homeless friend? Backstory: my 36 female BF 34 male and I have been together almost 5 years. About a year before the pandemic hit, my boyfriend allowed his homeless friend, who is also a meth head I found out later, and his friend's GF, also meth head, stay in a tent in our backyard. Now, we rent, and I was not happy that my BF allowed this. Because had our landlord found out, we could have been evicted. But my BF pleaded and begged, and I finally gave in, wanting to be a good person and help someone. Homeless friend HF and his GF, HFGF, were allowed to use our washer and dryer, since it was outside in the carport, and use the hose, but they were not allowed to come into the house when we weren't home. If they wanted a shower, they had to wait till my daughter was done with hers, because my family comes first. My BF understand that. I also went out of my way to make more food than necessary, more than the three of us could eat, so HF and HFGF could eat as well. She always said thank you and brought the dishes back into the house to be washed, even the paper plates to be thrown away properly. She was a meth head and homeless, but she wasn't a slob. Not like HF. He complained about everything I made. I'm not a chef, but I've been told my food is pretty good. Nothing fancy, but wholesome and will keep you alive. You'd think that someone who didn't know where his next meal was coming from would be happy just to have food of any kind, right? Wrong. Eventually, HF got arrested for stealing from a gas station down the street because he wanted chocolate and we were already in bed. HFGF stayed for a few more days until she was picked up by a friend, and we haven't seen her since. Now, HF has been in and out of jail and prison for most of his adult life. Lack of a stable home and support system upon release has created a never-ending cycle, as well as his unwillingness to get and keep a job, which we've tried many times to set him up with different jobs, and he either goes a few days and disappears or doesn't show up at all. Fast forward to about a month ago, HF just got out of jail and contacted my BF and said he was staying in the woods near the jail, to which my BF decided to buy a $70 tent for him. I was against it, having been burnt by past events, but this is literally the only friend my BF has left from high school, and he wanted to help, so whatever. Bought the tent, but then BF couldn't get a hold of HF because his phone only works on Wi-Fi and the woods ain't got Wi-Fi. Fast forward to today, and HF calls BF while on Wi-Fi. HF isn't staying in the woods anymore. He's staying with a guy he met. Great. However, HF states to BF that he doesn't have shoes, only slides, and it's getting cooler here, Florida. BF comes in and asks if I would give a pair of my shoes to HF. No. I refuse to help someone who won't help themselves, especially after trying to help so many times, and HF was an ungrateful twit. BF is now mad at me for not giving away my $70 Nikes.
OP here. My BF struggles with making friends. He's awkward and doesn't understand society. He's never been tested for autism, but I suspect, haven't brought it up to him as he's very defensive to any suggestion that he's not what he considers normal. He has ADHD or possibly is on the autism spectrum. HF is the only friend my BF has who is not dead or moved states away, so I guess you could say my BF is clinging to his youth. Afraid to grow up. I mean, I get it, making friends as an adult sucks. But being an enabler to someone's drug habit and habitual homelessness is worse, IMO. I posted here because, after sleeping on it, I was feeling bad for saying no and wanted others' opinions on it. At what point do you stop helping someone who has less than you? It makes me feel guilty almost that I said no. NTA your BF is enabling HF in his destructive behavior. By helping his friend he's actually not being a good friend. HF is unlikely to change and definitely won't if he knows that BF and friends like him will swoop in to help when he needs it. You need to set some firm boundaries with BF and have a long sit-down talk about how this is detrimental for your relationship. Also, definitely don't give him your shoes. You owe him nothing and it's like the kid's book if you give a mouse a cookie if you give a moose a muffin. If you haven't heard of it go look it up. But essentially these shoes will be NTA drop the boyfriend though. Homeless friend doesn't need $70 shoes. Chances are he only wanted to sell them, probably sold the tent too if they're involved in drugs. If he wants to be Captain Feel-Good for letting HF use him that's on him, but that by extension will involve you case in point the risk of eviction for allowing them to squat in your backyard. He's making unilateral choices that he shouldn't be and getting mad at you for having a shiny spine. Do you want to continue to be tied to someone that makes such bad choices? A warm ego doesn't mean jack if they break and steal from you eventually. You're right, you can't. I work with the homeless, the first thing you have to learn is that there is a fine line between assistance and enabling. I can assure you that even in small rural communities, there are places that HF can go to for warm meals, showers, clothing and a safe place to just rest. The sad fact is that as long as BF is willing to give to HF, he will take anything and everything offered while expecting more. That does not mean we should not show compassion, it does mean BF needs to point HF to resources that can give the help, even shoes, that HF needs without adding stress and strain to your lives. Many of the homeless have a myriad of issues that need to be sorted out, the most obvious ones are usually the tip of the iceberg. NTA, this is your BF circus, and he should not expect you and your kids to join in the show unless you do so because you want to. You are not under any obligation to fix it.
Am I the a-hole for disagreeing with my child's stepfather and wanting my child to live with me? I will sum up years of drama fast. My child was born out of wedlock and grew up with their mother. I paid child support and got my child as often as I was allowed. At every opportunity, I would request that my child live with me, but I never went to court. I never went because we lived far from each other and I thought it would bring more drama to the relationship. Now my child is older and wants to live with me. And finally, my child's mother has agreed. The issue is with the stepfather. He will not allow it because he helped raise the child for 10 plus years and basically calling me a deadbeat. Could I have visited more? Called more? Done everything more? Of course. Am I the a-hole? Because I feel that a stepfather has no say in the matter and will take my child if the mother agrees.
I don't know. A child wanting to live with his biological father who he never sees every day, at around 10 years of age, can only mean one of two things. Either he just loves his bio dad's presents company more, or he abhors the stepdad. I was a classic case of the second one growing up. SF loves his South Carolina, and yet at 10 years of age, the kid decided he wants to move out. I have no idea how anyone could think this adds up. It's a child we're talking about. They have no idea of biological this or that. All they see is which parental figure treats them the best and with whom they can be safe with. In this case, I think we know which dad it is for the kid and no, it's not the stepdad. And are we just gonna leave out the fact that the stepfather objects to having the kid move to his biological father against the kid's own wishes and still say SF just loves the kid so much? I get that you're trying to be impartial for the stepdad, but I think there's more than what was presented in this story, and to be honest, it can be borderline scary. For the OP, NTA. NTA, I think a lot of people on here are taking what you said and assuming you're a deadbeat, but I didn't read it that way. I actually agree with your decision to not fight for custody. Those cases are brutal and drag everyone, child included, through the mud, and they often destroy any chance of a civil co-parenting relationship. If you know your child was being loved and cared for in the primary home, then I honestly think you made the right choice. If you paid your child support, showed up when your child needed you, called as often as possible, and ensured your child was loved, then you did everything right. Your child is now old enough to decide and wants to come live with you. If the mother agrees, then that's all that matters. I'm not saying to ignore the stepdad's feelings, but at the end of the day it's your child's choice to make, and most kids don't make a decision like that on a whim. Depending on age of child, reasons for moving may be offered to set up breaks in advance where the child will go back to his mom SF. Talk about buying tickets in advance if it's a plane ride worthy distance. Maybe have a call with SF1v1 and ask what concerns he has, and make it clear that you empathize with his position and want to find a living arrangement that everyone is happy with. Maybe consider inviting everyone over for Christmas, if that fits with COVID guidelines, everyone's comfort levels, just to reassure that you have everything ready for your son to stay with you long term and that everything is on the up and up. No, SF doesn't have any legal rights, but being a major parental figure in your son's life is a big deal, and if there's no good reason for animosity, make it clear that there isn't any, and that the three of you are a parenting unit. Not anyone versus anyone, just all three of you working to provide son with the best childhood future you can. Best of luck. NTA, I am concerned for the safety of your kid if their stepdad is this much of a control freak. He reminds me of those parents who steal money from their kids to sabotage the kid's attempts to move out. He isn't putting the kid first, he is putting his own feelings first and bullying his wife to get his way. I'm also concerned for the safety of your ex with this controlling, self-centered man, but she's not your responsibility, your child is. Maybe if her kid escapes this household, she will have some breathing room to look at a relationship, now that she's no longer spending time and energy shielding her kid from her husband. Regardless of what your ex does, get your kid, daddy. If you really want your child to come live with you, then you need to go to court. Due to COVID, some courts may let you file online, also do the court case via Zoom. Unless stepdad had legally adopted her, which I doubt, then he has zero say on the child going to live with you. But also you say visit as often as you were allowed, could you have called more? SF may have the mother spin it against you to make you look bad. If the child support was not court ordered, then there is no record of it, and SF could convince your child's mother to lie and say you haven't paid squat and you was invited to see your child on multiple occasions, but refuse doesn't call off an ECT. Be prepared for uphill battle. Get a really good lawyer. Good luck. But NTA. Look your NTA at all. Now on to other things. The stepfather doesn't have a leg to stand on in any legal sense, he hasn't attempted to adopt your child, and they have made it clear they wish to live with you. At 15 they are able to have a say in where they live. I have read some of your comments, OP, and I have to say this. Drop the empathy, cause you're seeming like a pushover. Shine the spine and take this to court since the SF is trying to overstep. Also, your child is being abused by being made to watch all the children. Parentification is a form of abuse, and take it from an adult who was parentified. It sucked. I lost a good portion of my teen years, cause I was watching my 4 younger sister, cause I was a teen when they were all born. So please take this to court. Please stop being such a doormat with this. I get you don't want to make waves, but the stepfather isn't willing to let his free babysitter leave without a fight. You won't be the cause of whatever fallout happens. That's on the SF for acting like he has a say in a child's life that isn't his.